This is my explanation of the just culture model in relationship to the culture ladder. So there are two levels of actually three levels, I guess, of the just culture model. The far end of the spectrum, low end of the spectrum, is the no blame culture, and the other far end is the punitive level. And those levels are at the far end of the spectrum and probably the least effective in this scenario. So I'll tell you a little story. So I used to work with Shell 20 odd years ago when I started off, and we used to run a pure no blame culture. It was awesome. Okay, you could make any mistake you wanted, and as long as you didn't lie or try to hide behind something, and you put your hand up and said, "I made a mistake," then that's it. You always had a job with Shell. If you had a job there, you had a job for life. That was the saying back then. And but with that though, how can I explain it? I wouldn't say it's pathological rule breaking, but there was no responsibility. If you made a mistake, you put your hand up and say, "Yep, that's me. Sorry. What can you do?" And we did have compliance to some extent. There was some level of it, but if you broke the rules to get the job done and nothing happened, then that was condoned. You were always trying to get the job done. You were trying to be as safe as you could, sure, but it only works so well. It's not as effective as you want. Okay, so my story to show you how extreme that is was my first trip at sea, and we were bringing on board a crude oil washing heater. This thing weighs about 2 or 3 tons, and it came in this lovely box, probably about 3 meters long by a meter. And the chief mate was discussing with the chief engineer how they're going to get this down into the pump room. Okay, and they said, "Well, let's travel all the way around the world in this box. Let's keep it in the box, and we'll disassemble it when we get down to the platform." So everyone said, "Yep, that's fine." We put a strap around the center of the box, and we started lowering it into the pump room. I was on the bridge at the time, and so we're lowering it down into the pump room, and we're going to put it on a platform that was about 50 or 60 feet down. So we put a guy over there on the platform, and he had a chain block and attached it to the box. And as you can imagine, the box was starting to pull over to the platform, but as it was tilting like this. And as you can imagine, the pump rockets out of the side of the box and falls 10 stories into the bottom of the pump room. Bam! I'm on the bridge. I remember specifically it's around 10 o'clock in the morning. I hear this god-awful bang. I thought I ran over a fishing boat. I send my cadet out to the wing of the bridge on the starboard side. I ran out to the port looking for debris of a fishing boat. Anyway, no debris. I didn't hit a fishing boat. So all I hear on the radio is the chief mate going, "Chief engineer, yeah, we dropped it." He said, You dropped what?" He said, "We dropped the pump." "Where? Where'd you drop it to?" "From the top all the way to the bottom." And you hear the chief engineer on the radio rolling over in laughter. You'd think there'd be some screaming. No, pure, just belly aching laughs at this chief engineer on the radio, and the place is going nuts, just laughing and laughing and laughing. What can you do? "Boy, I should have took it out of the box and reslung it properly." "What can you do? I made a mistake." You think you think an accident of that magnitude might involve firing people, maybe even a written warning or something like that. Nope, no blame culture. Not my fault. What can you do? Made a mistake. Okay, and as you can imagine, that breeds a certain kind of person. Okay, we won't get into who it is, but you can imagine. So that's fine. Roll ahead 15 or so years, 2006, we get a brand new general manager. And how can I explain this guy? This guy is a hammer. He's an enforcer. That's what he is. He's an enforcer. And comes new to the company. We start telling him, some of the things we're doing. He's like, "You do what?" Okay, and he goes, No. All that stuff, that no blame culture, that is coming to an end right now. I want strict compliance all the time. And he went from a no blame culture to a top end, punitive, you made a mistake, there's the door kind of culture. Firing people, and he did so, fired a few people very, very quickly and publicly. And don't get me wrong, we needed to get a good kick in the ass to smarten up. And if he only did that for a few months, it would have been okay. But it wasn't. He wanted to keep it like that his whole time there, 5 or 6 years. And a punitive culture instilling that kind of fear for that time period, not effective at all. Okay, and we'll talk about that now in just a second when we get into just culture. So after he fired a few people very, very publicly, you can imagine people all of a sudden said, man, I can't go making mistakes like that anymore. I'm going to lose my job. Okay, so with that, people started doing a lot more compliance, following the rules a lot more, but also they were not nearly as welcome, or not welcome, but willing to put their hand up and say, I made a mistake. So all that great feedback you were getting, all that openness, that came to a dead standstill. All right. So after this guy fired a few people, we had to rework the way we handled accidents and just non-compliance. And we came up with a just culture model. I might even show it to you later on, a few more slides. And it's just a model of, you make this accident, you had this incident, and the punishment should fit the crime for that. And one end it's firing, and the other end is coaching and training. And so we had to use this model in every decision we did. So if someone made a mistake, then we had to start implementing a just culture. And that is where you want to be. So people feel comfortable, they want own responsibility, they understand that there is consequences, but if I do a good job, then I'm praised as well. But if I screw it up royally, then things are going to happen. Okay? So, putting that together now with the culture ladder. If you can imagine you're on the very end of the spectrum, you have a SMS, you're following some rule, maybe, but you're really a pathological rule breaker. Made a mistake, no blame culture. What can you do? Everyone's doing it, okay? As long as work is getting done, no one's getting hurt, everyone's kind of happy. All right? So then you come in with the stick. You come in with an enforcer who starts to say, look, we need to follow procedures, right? Are going to take stuff away, or people are going to start losing their jobs, whatever you're using as the punitive measure. Could be, So at that stage, you're using it for a short period of time. You may need to make an example of a few people saying, look, rule breaking is not tolerated. Compliance is what I'm looking for. Okay? Then people start to say, oh, these guys are serious. Okay? And people start to comply. You might have to force them to comply. They don't want to, the good old happy-go-luckies of a no-blame culture. People love that stuff. I'm telling you, man, it's great. Okay? From a feeling cozy point of view. But from an effective safety culture, not so great. So now you're at a calculative level where you're starting to get people to participate in their following procedures and checklists and stuff like that. I'll use my story. I had this roustabout once. He came up to me and said, Dave, look, I've never ever followed this procedure before. Dug it out of the book. I'm going to start trying to use it. But I found out very, very quickly it's not fit for purpose. I haven't used it before because we've been at a pathological level of rule breaking and, So anyway, he didn't say those exact words. He doesn't know what a pathological level of culture ladder is anyway. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, he said, look, I haven't followed this before. I'd like to make some improvements. Now, if I go in with punitive level and punish this guy, why haven't you been following it before? You're fired. Then I'm going to get zero participation. Okay? If I'm still at this little no-blame culture, say, look, that's fine. Forget about it. Start following it now. Make your changes. They're all good. I approve them. And voila. Now this guy owns his procedure. Okay? How do you think he's going to use that? He's going to use it to the best of his ability because he owns it. And now he's going to start spreading the word that people want to improve, management are taking on suggestions and ideas, and that's going to move you from the calculative into the proactive level. Okay? Once you're there, into that level, people are starting bringing ideas, starting to participate, all that stuff, that little bit of infliction and the stick you had to use, you can get rid of that now and start using the carrot. Okay? Start giving prizes for these ideas and these, you get all these safety awards, I'm sure, in companies you've been with, participating here, or the best open reporting, or this best suggestion, all these things. That works again as well, bringing you up into the proactive level. It's a carrot. Some people like it, some people don't. They always think you're buying safety. But now you're moving away from the punitive level where you had to get a little bit to enforce your levels, and now you're moving into the carrot and the just culture. People are starting to follow the procedures, starting to become normal now. So now you can bring in a just culture where if you make mistakes, there has to be some kind of punishment. There's responsibility, there's ownership, okay? And that's where you're looking for. Once you get up into the proactive and the generative level, okay, you can take away the carrots. You don't need that anymore because everyone knows their job. they're doing it. They're making their updates, their management of change process, and all these things. It just becomes normal practice because that is your job. In the lower levels, is like, oh, I don't really want to do a management of change. That's extra paperwork for me, you know. But now, where you've been just doing it so long, and you're at the high-end level, it just becomes natural. You don't need the carrots anymore. You don't need the safety prizes and stuff like that. You're at a pure generative level. Everyone's doing what they should, and it's zen. You know, it's nirvana. All right? So anyway, that's my story for Culture Ladder and the Just Culture, and I hope you understand it. Thank you very much. Cheers.